The sky above Earth split apart in a kaleidoscope of colors as the Kraskin starship entered the atmosphere. Massive and angular, the vessel radiated menace, its surface adorned with symbols of war and conquest. Inside, Xalarak the Invincible stood in silence, gazing at the planet below. His crimson scales shimmered under the pale light of the ship's control panels, and his 4 arms, each as thick as a tree trunk, rested on the hilt of his ceremonial battle axe. Xalarak was a legend among the stars, a warrior of the Kraskin species. He had bested foes across the galaxy in countless arenas. His name was whispered with reverence and fear, and his armor bore the marks of 1,000 victories. Yet today, he had come to Earth not to conquer, but to challenge its mightiest creature as part of his species' rite of passage. The humans had been alerted weeks in advance by the Galactic Union. A Kraskin warrior's right was sacred, and interference was prohibited. Humanity, still relatively new to the interstellar community, had agreed to host Xalarak's challenge, though they were uncertain what to expect. In a high-tech bunker outside the Amazon rainforest, scientists, military officials, and diplomats gathered to greet the alien warrior. A transport shuttle landed with a hiss of steam, and Xalarak emerged, towering over the humans. His presence was overwhelming, his crimson eyes scanning the crowd with cold precision. "I seek Earth's most dangerous creature," Xalarak declared, his voice a deep rumble that seemed to vibrate through the air. "Present it to me, so that I may prove my worth." The humans exchanged uneasy glances. They had prepared dossiers on Earth's apex predators, tigers, sharks, crocodiles, but the task of deciding which was most dangerous had been hotly debated. Dr. Elena Carter, a zoologist leading the team, stepped forward, holding a tablet. "Welcome to Earth, Xalarak. We've identified several contenders for your challenge. The tiger, a stealthy predator with unparalleled strength and agility. The great white shark, a master of the ocean, and the saltwater crocodile, a creature older than the dinosaurs. Each is deadly in its own right." Xalarak waved a dismissive claw. "Insufficient. I require a true test. These creatures lack the ferocity to challenge me." Dr. Carter hesitated. "If these do not suffice, you are free to explore. But I must warn you, Earth's creatures, though small by galactic standards, are products of intense evolutionary pressures. They may surprise you." Xalarak grunted, unimpressed, and set off into the dense rainforest, his hulking frame moving with surprising grace. Human drones and sensors followed at a safe distance, documenting the unprecedented event. As Xalarak wandered, he found himself both amused and perplexed by Earth's fauna. A jaguar stalked him briefly, only to flee when he growled in its direction. A caiman snapped at his feet but was easily tossed aside. Nothing he encountered posed a real threat. His confidence grew. Surely, this Earth was nothing more than a collection of primitive creatures and fragile ecosystems. But then, his path led him into a clearing, where a shimmering spiderweb stretched between 2 trees. Xalarak paused, curious. The web glistened like silver under the sunlight, and at its center sat a small, black spider no larger than his claw. Its body bore a distinctive red hourglass marking, and its legs moved with deliberate precision. "Such a fragile thing," he muttered, stepping closer. He reached out to touch the web, his curiosity outweighing his caution. The spider reacted instinctively, darting toward his hand and sinking its fangs into his armored skin. Xalarak chuckled. "A bite? Is this your weapon, little one?" He crushed the web between his fingers and continued walking, but within minutes, something changed. A strange sensation spread from his hand, a burning that crept through his veins like wildfire. His vision blurred, and his limbs felt heavy. "What is this?" he growled, staggering. His twin hearts raced uncontrollably, and his knees buckled beneath him. The mighty Xalarak, undefeated in countless battles, fell to the forest floor. The human observers were stunned. Through the drone feeds, they watched as the galaxy's toughest warrior lay, writhing in the dirt, brought low by an unassuming spider. Emergency teams rushed in, extracting Zalarak and transporting him to the research facility. As he was carried away, Zalarak's vision dimmed, and a single thought echoed in his mind. How could something so small possess such power? In the shadows of the forest, the spider scurried back to its web, unaware of the chaos it had unleashed. The research facility buzzed with tension as Zalarak was laid on a reinforced medical bed, his massive frame dwarfing the equipment around him. Monitors beeped frantically, their readings erratic and alarming. His crimson scales, once radiant with vitality, were dulled by a sheen of sweat. For the first time in his legendary career, Zalarak the Invincible was helpless. Dr. Elena Carter hurried into the room, her lab coat flapping as she joined the team of human and Kraskin medics. "Status report," she demanded, pulling on a pair of gloves. The lead Kraskin medic, a stern figure named Drakner, snarled in frustration. "His vitals are deteriorating. The venom from your primitive creature has infiltrated his nervous system. Our antitoxins are ineffective. It's targeting him in a way our physiology isn't designed to counter." Elena studied the monitor displaying Zalarak's biochemistry. "What kind of venom is this?" "A neurotoxin," one of her assistants replied. "The spider, a Latrodectus species, commonly called a black widow, delivers a venom that disrupts nerve signaling. In humans, it causes intense pain and cramping but is rarely fatal. For Zalarak, it's behaving differently. His nervous system is hyperreacting to it." Drakner glared. "Are you saying this insignificant insect has bested the galaxy's strongest warrior?" Elena shot him a sharp look. "I'm saying it's a biological mismatch. Earth's organisms evolved in unique conditions. The potency of our venoms often far outweighs what their size would suggest." As the team worked, Zalarak groaned, his deep voice rattling the room. His claws twitched involuntarily, and his eyes flickered open, glowing faintly. "No! Intervention," he rasped. Drakner turned to him. "Rest, warrior. You are strong. You will endure this challenge." Elena frowned. "We can't just let him suffer. This venom is shutting down his systems, one by one." Drakner bristled. "The Kraskin way is to face challenges without external aid. To intervene would dishonor him." "Dishonor?" Elena snapped. "This isn't a battlefield. It's biology. If we don't act, he'll die. There's no honor in that." The two glared at each other, but Zalarak's sudden roar silenced the room. "Enough! If this is how I fall, so be it. I will not have my legacy tarnished by weakness." Elena hesitated, her fists clenched. "Fine, but at least let us try to understand the venom's effects. If nothing else, it might help future cases." Zalarak grunted in reluctant agreement before slipping back into unconsciousness. Over the next hours, the research team worked tirelessly. They analyzed samples of Zalarak's blood and compared it with the spider venom. The results were startling. The neurotoxin was amplifying his nervous system's response, causing spasms, hallucinations, and systemic failure. Elena stared at the data in disbelief. This spider's venom wasn't meant for creatures his size. It's like overloading a circuit. It's too much for his body to handle. Drakner's expression softened as he studied the warrior lying motionless on the table. Perhaps the greatest strength is knowing when to accept help. For the first time, the Kraskin medic didn't object when Elena proposed synthesizing an antidote. Time was running out, and Zalarak's legacy wasn't just his own. It was now tied to the planet that had unexpectedly brought him to his knees. The lab was silent except for the hum of machinery and the rapid tapping of keyboards. Dr. Elena Carter leaned over her workstation, exhaustion lining her face. On the medical bed nearby, Zalarak lay motionless, his chest heaving in shallow breaths. His once glowing crimson scales were now dull and pallid. Time was slipping away. "This is the 5th formulation," Elena muttered, holding up a vial of pale liquid. "It's based on Kraskin enzymes but calibrated to neutralize the spider's venom. It has to work." Drakner stood at the bedside, his imposing frame casting a long shadow over the room. Despite his initial resistance, the Kraskin medic had softened. The sight of Zalarak, a warrior revered across the stars, reduced to this state had shaken him. You're confident this will not harm him further? Drakner asked, his voice low but filled with tension. No guarantees, Elena replied, setting the vial in the injector. But without it, he doesn't stand a chance. His systems are shutting down. Drakner hesitated, his clawed hand resting on the edge of the bed. The Kraskin way teaches us to endure, to survive through sheer will. But this venom, it's unlike anything we've faced. Elena stopped and looked at him. Strength isn't just about endurance, Drakner. It's about knowing when to accept help. Your people pride yourselves on resilience, and that's admirable. But resilience can take many forms. Drakner remained silent, his gaze fixed on Zalarak. Finally, he gave a curt nod. Do it. Elena wasted no time. She administered the antidote into Zalarak's primary circulatory vein, stepping back as the liquid entered his bloodstream. The room held its collective breath. For a moment, nothing happened. Then Zalarak's body convulsed violently, his claws digging into the reinforced bed. Monitors beeped erratically as his vitals spiked. Is this normal? Drakner growled, his voice rising. It's the venom fighting back, Elena said. Her eyes locked on the screens. His body's reacting to the neutralization process. Stay calm. Zalarak's convulsions gradually slowed, his breathing steadying. The monitor readings began to normalize. A tense silence filled the room until his eyes flickered open, glowing faintly in the dim light. Where am I? Zalarak's voice was hoarse but steady. Drakner stepped closer, his expression a mixture of relief and reverence. You are safe, warrior. The humans have helped purge the venom from your body. Zalarak's gaze shifted to Elena, his expression unreadable. You intervened against my wishes. Elena crossed her arms. I did what needed to be done. Call it intervention, call it dishonor, whatever you want. But you're alive because of it. Zalarak let out a low rumble, somewhere between a growl and a chuckle. You are bold for such a small being. He paused, his tone softening. Perhaps boldness is its own kind of strength. Drakner looked between them, a rare smile tugging at his stern features. It seems there is more to Earth than meets the eye. Zalarak's recovery continued, slow but steady. As he rested, the room's tension gave way to a quieter reflection. The mightiest warrior in the galaxy had been brought to the brink not by a foe of towering strength, but by a creature so small it could fit in his claw. And it was humans, with their ingenuity and persistence, who had saved him. The sun rose over the Amazon rainforest, its light streaming into the research facility through reinforced glass panels. Zalarak sat upright on his medical bed, his colossal frame still but no longer frail. His scales, though dulled from the ordeal, had begun to regain their luster. Dr. Elena Carter approached cautiously, a datapad in her hand. Despite her earlier boldness, standing before the galaxy's toughest warrior now filled her with a mix of pride and apprehension. How do you feel? She asked. Zalarak turned his glowing eyes toward her. Stronger. Though the weakness lingers, I am recovering. His voice was steady, his tone contemplative. You saved my life, despite my protests. For that, I owe you my thanks. Elena smiled faintly. You don't owe me anything. But if you're feeling generous, you could spread the word that Earth isn't as insignificant as it seems. Zalarak chuckled, a deep rumble that seemed to vibrate the walls. Your world is unusual. Its creatures and its people both. I came here seeking a test of strength, but I found something far greater. Humility. Drakner stepped into the room, his stern demeanor softened by a rare sense of camaraderie. The humans have proven resourceful, warrior. Their methods may lack the grandeur of battle, but they wield their intelligence as a weapon. Perhaps we Kraskins have something to learn from them. Zalarak stood, his movements slow but deliberate. He towered over Elena and the others, yet there was a newfound gentleness in his presence. Before I leave, there is one thing I must do. I wish to see the creature that bested me. Elena hesitated. That might be difficult. The spider that bit you probably returned to its web in the forest. It's unlikely we'll find the exact one. Then bring me another of its kind, Zalarak said firmly. I must understand the source of my defeat. An hour later, Elena and her team presented a small, secure glass enclosure containing a black widow spider. Zalarak peered into the box, his crimson eyes studying the tiny creature with uncharacteristic reverence. "This is what brought me low," he said, his voice filled with awe. "A being so small, yet so deadly. In its own way, it is a warrior." Elena chuckled. "It's a survivor like you. Everything on Earth has had to adapt, to fight for its place. That's what makes us strong." Zalarak nodded slowly, setting the enclosure down. "Your world is a testament to the power of resilience and ingenuity. I underestimated it, and it nearly cost me my life." As preparations were made for his departure, Zalarak addressed the gathered humans. "Earth has earned my respect. Your people and your creatures have shown me that strength comes in many forms. When I return to my people, I will tell them of this place, of the spider that humbled me and the humans who saved me." With that, Zalarak departed, his towering figure disappearing into the depths of his starship. The legend of Earth's tiny conqueror and the humans who tamed the galaxy's greatest warrior would soon echo across the stars.